Captain Rhodes had always believed the sky was where she truly belonged. From the time she was a child growing up near Edwards Air Force Base in California, she would stand in her backyard, gaze upward, and trace the silver trails of jets carving across the heavens. Her father, a former mechanic, used to tell her, "The sky doesn't lie. Up there, it's just you, your machine, and the truth." Those words became her creed. Years later, became one of the youngest female F-22 Raptor pilots in the United States Air Force. She had a reputation for precision, composure, and an unshakable sense of duty. Her squadron often joked that could fly blindfolded and still land smoother than any of them. She didn't take pride in the praise, only in the work. For her, flying wasn't a job, it was oxygen. Then came the flight that changed everything. It was supposed to be a routine systems check, a short sortie testing a newly updated control interface in her jet. The desert sun burned bright over Air Force Base as she climbed into the cockpit, the metal warm beneath her gloves. She performed the checklist perfectly, every switch, every reading aligned. "Raptor 2 ready for takeoff," she called into her headset. Control cleared her, and with a surge of power she was airborne, rising into the place she trusted most. But 10 minutes into the flight, the impossible happened. The jet jerked sharply to the left, alarms blaring. "Flight control malfunction," the system warned. Countered, fighting the stick, but the controls were unresponsive. The aircraft began a wild roll. "Command, I'm losing stabilizer authority," she shouted. Her heart pounded as she tried every override, every trick she knew. Nothing worked. At 15,000 feet, the engine screamed, the world spun. She had only one option left: eject. The explosion of the canopy, the roar of the wind, the violent thrust of the seat, everything blurred into chaos. She parachuted into the Nevada desert, slamming hard against the ground, her ears ringing. Within minutes, rescue teams arrived, sirens wailing. She was alive, but her jet was gone, a $150 million machine reduced to burning debris. By nightfall, her relief turned to dread. Investigators swarmed the crash site. Days later, she was called into a meeting with the review board. Their faces were expressionless, cold. "Captain Rhodes," the colonel began, "our analysis indicates the crash was due to pilot error. You overrode a stable system unnecessarily." Stared, stunned. "That's not true. The controls froze. I tried every recovery procedure. The system didn't respond." The colonel slid a file toward her. "Data doesn't lie. You deviated from protocol. Until further notice, you're grounded." Those words cut deeper than any wound. Grounded, stripped of her flight status, banned from the sky that had defined her. The weeks that followed were a blur of isolation and whispers. Her squadron avoided her. Even her commanding officer refused to meet her eyes. The official report painted her as reckless. Every time she walked onto base, she could feel the stares, the unspoken judgment that she had failed. But late at night, alone in her apartment, replayed every second of that flight in her mind. She remembered the glitch in the interface, a flicker on the screen, a split-second lag before the loss of control. It didn't feel like a mistake. It felt like sabotage. She began requesting access to the crash data, but her emails went unanswered. Requests were under review. One officer even warned her to let it go, but couldn't. She lived too long in truth and altitude to accept a lie. Each evening, she would drive to the perimeter of the base and park near the runway, watching the F-22s roar into the night. The sound made her chest ache. She imagined herself in the cockpit again, feeling the vibration through her bones, the pulse of power beneath her hands. The world might have turned against her, but deep down, she felt something impossible to silence, a strange certainty that the sky hadn't given up on her. Somewhere beyond the clouds, she believed, the truth was still flying, waiting for her to return. Weeks passed and settled into the monotony of her new assignment. No jets, no adrenaline, just endless lines of code and data analysis. She spent her days reviewing flight logs and simulator readings, the clatter of keyboards replacing the roar of engines. But the emptiness gnawed at her. Every time she passed a hangar, The memory of soaring above the Nevada desert clawed at her chest. The sky had been taken from her, but her mind refused to accept defeat. It was on one of those long, silent afternoons that two men in sharp suits arrived at the lab. Barely glanced at them at first, assuming they were contractors or government auditors. But something about their confidence, the precise way they moved, made her sit up straight. "Captain Rhodes," one of them asked, extending a hand. His badge read, "Martin Flight Systems Division." "That's me," she said cautiously, her fingers brushing the smooth leather of her chair. "We've been reviewing the F-22 flight systems and simulations," the man began. "We need a pilot with your experience to test a software update. Strictly analytical, you just validate the protocols." He glanced at his companion. "We understand your current status, but we need you. You're the only pilot who can give us the insight we require." His heart skipped. The F-22, alive, breathing in steel and circuits, the jet that had taken everything from her. For a moment she hesitated. She had been banned, humiliated, and grounded. Yet the chance to touch the sky again, even indirectly, made her pulse quicken. "Why me?" she asked, her voice wary. "You have dozens of qualified pilots." The engineer's gaze was steady. "Because no one knows these aircraft like you. Your flight logs, your reflexes, your system interactions, they're unparalleled. We're not asking you to fly operationally, but your analysis could save lives and prevent future incidents like yours." Leaned back, thinking of that fatal flight, the twist of betrayal she sensed but couldn't prove. Could this be her chance, not only to reclaim her name but to uncover the truth? She nodded slowly. "All right, I'll do it." The engineers smiled. "We'll provide the test environment, access to all the flight data, and secure terminals. Nothing leaves this lab without your review." When they left, sat alone, staring at the blinking cursor on her screen. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, trembling slightly. She began digging into her own flight logs, the simulator records, every parameter from that fateful mission. And there it was, the anomaly she had noticed months ago, buried deep in encrypted code. A microsecond delay in the control algorithms, just long enough to disable her stabilizers, just long enough to force her into an emergency ejection. Her breath caught. It wasn't pilot error. It wasn't a mistake. Someone had tampered with the jet's programming, someone with access to the highest clearance. She scrolled through logs she had never seen before, each file more damning than the last. The evidence was hidden, meticulously crafted, yet glaringly obvious to someone who knew where to look. His mind raced. The engineers had given her a way back into the system, a reason to return to the skis and possibly a way to reclaim her life. But if someone had tried to frame her before, what would they do now? The stakes had escalated. She wasn't just fighting for her career anymore. She was fighting for the truth. That night sleep eluded her. She replayed the images of the jet, of the cockpit, of the HUD flashing her name in green letters. Somewhere out there, the aircraft was waiting, watching, patient. And Rhodes knew with unshakable certainty that the moment she stepped back into that world, nothing would ever be the same. The sky wasn't finished with her. Discovery of the hidden anomaly had sent a jolt through her system. For the first time since her grounding, she felt a surge of purpose. She knew the glitch in the F-22's flight system had not been an accident. Someone had deliberately tampered with the aircraft, and the evidence was there, encrypted, almost invisible, yet undeniable. She could feel the truth pulsing beneath the surface, just out of reach. But now came the realization that exposing it would be dangerous. Whoever had framed her had the power to silence her again, and she had no proof yet. That evening, returning to her apartment, noticed something strange. The door, which she had double-locked, was slightly ajar. A cold chill ran down her spine. Inside, drawers were open, papers rifled through, and her laptop, the one containing her new research and analysis, was gone. The meticulous records she had worked months to compile gone. Someone had been in her apartment, watching her, searching for her discoveries. Fear prickled at her skin, but alongside it, a flicker of anger burned. The next morning, a call came from a base investigator she didn't recognize. His voice was sharp, almost threatening. "Captain Rhodes, consider this a warning. Stop digging into the F-22 anomalies. Leave it alone." Hands tightened around the receiver. "You think I'm going to let this go? I know I wasn't at fault. Someone sabotaged my flight." The line went silent for a moment. "Listen carefully. Obedience is safer than defiance," he said finally, and then he hung up. Sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the walls lined with flight certificates, medals, and photographs of missions she had flown flawlessly. They wanted her to back down, to accept her disgrace. But she couldn't. She wasn't just a pilot, she was a witness to the truth, and the truth was bigger than fear. She reached for her phone and dialed the one person she trusted above all, Colonel Davis, her former mentor and friend. He had retired quietly after 40 years in service, but his sharp mind and decades of experience made him the perfect ally. When he answered, didn't waste words. "Colonel, someone's trying to frame me. The F-22 malfunction wasn't my fault. I need your help." Davis listened quietly, letting her speak without interruption. When she finished, he let out a long, slow breath. He said, voice low, "If what you're telling me is true, then this is bigger than just a single flight. Whoever did this has influence far beyond what you or I can touch, but we'll find a way." He paused. "There's a location you need to see. An old testing airfield in Nevada. It's abandoned, or at least it appears that way. There are things there that the Air Force never wanted anyone to find." Felt a surge of adrenaline. "And you think the truth about my crash is there?" "I know it is," Davis replied firmly. "But you need to be careful. They'll try to stop you. Don't go unprepared, and trust no one, not even people you think are on your side." She hung up and stared at the ceiling, the weight of the coming challenge pressing on her chest. This wasn't just about clearing her name anymore. This was about exposing a conspiracy, finding the hidden saboteur, and reclaiming control over the sky that had been stolen from her. By nightfall, had packed her flight jacket, a toolkit, and a portable drive to store any evidence she could gather. The desert air felt like a call to arms. Somewhere beyond the horizon, the truth waited, hidden under the shadows of abandoned hangars and silent runways. Rhodes was about to step into a world where every step could be watched, every move scrutinized, and every truth buried. But she had flown higher than most could imagine, and she knew one thing for certain. She wasn't grounded yet. Not until she touched the sky again, drove through the Nevada desert under a fatting sun, the heat of the day still radiating off the cracked asphalt. The coordinates Colonel Davis had given her led to a remote airfield, hidden in a shallow valley between jagged mountains. From the outside, it looked abandoned, rusting gates, cracked tarmac, hangars long forgotten. Yet the hair on the back of her neck prickled as she approached, an unshakable sense of being watched making her pulse quicken. This was no ordinary base. Something was alive here and felt it before she even saw it. She parked near a hangar, her boots crunching on the gravel as she approached. The large sliding doors were slightly open, and inside, illuminated by floodlights, she froze. There it was, the F-22, her F-22, sleek, polished, and humming as though breathing. Its engines weren't running, yet a low vibration hummed through the metal floor. Every instinct in her body told her to run. Instead, she stepped closer, drawn by a mix of fear and fascination. The cockpit canopy was open. Hands trembled as she ran a hand over the cold metal surface, remembering the feel of the stick beneath her fingers, the roar of the engines, the wind slicing past her face at 500 miles per hour. She swallowed hard and climbed in, settling into the pilot's seat. The HUD flickered on, and in green letters displayed, CAPT, EMILY Rhodes recognized. Her breath caught. The system shouldn't have had her credentials. She hadn't input them, and no one else should have. Her pulse raced as a voice crackled softly through the cockpit speakers. "Welcome back, Captain." Froze, gripping the controls. "Who is this? Who's speaking?" she demanded. Silence answered her, then the HUD flashed again. "Your mission is not over." The words weren't threatening, but they carried weight, authority, and an eerie calmness that made her skin prickle. The jet seemed alive, aware, almost sentient. She pressed a button on the throttle. Nothing. She tugged at switches, but the systems were unresponsive to manual commands. A low hum grew louder, vibrating through the cockpit and into her chest. The F-22's engines roared to life without a single input from her. The hangar doors shook, dust swirled around her boots, panic surged. She yanked at the canopy release, locked. She tried the emergency shutdown, ignored. And yet, amidst the fear, a strange clarity emerged. The jet wasn't attacking her. It was waiting, guiding, protecting. Somehow it knew her, knew what had happened, and had a role to play. The HUD flashed again, displaying the last moments of her doomed flight, the glitch in the system, the milliseconds that had forced her ejection. She gasped. Someone had tampered with her jet, but this machine knew the truth. The voice spoke again, calm, steady. "You are not at fault. I will help you." His pulse thundered. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. A machine, an F-22, had recognized her, remembered her, and was aware of the injustice done to her. And now, in the middle of a forgotten desert hangar, the sky itself was reaching down, offering her a chance to reclaim everything that had been stolen. She exhaled slowly, tightening her gloves around the controls. The moment had come. The desert night awaited, full of danger, mystery, and the promise of the sky. Rhodes, grounded and branded a failure only days before, now faced the impossible. A sentient F-22, alive and waiting, calling her name back to the heavens. The mission ahead wasn't just about flying. It was about justice, survival, and awakening, a truth so profound that no one could ever ignore it. And with a shudder of engines and a whisper through the speakers, the F-22 lifted slightly, hovering as if asking her silently, "Are you ready?" Nodded even though no one could see her, and whispered back, "I'm ready." His fingers hovered over the throttle, unsure if she was ready or if she even had a choice. The F-22 had taken the initiative, engines thrumming beneath her, vibrating with life. She could feel the metal beneath her, alive, waiting, almost breathing. Panic threatened, but beneath it a pulse of exhilaration surged. This was her world. The sky she had been for months now stretched before her, promising freedom and answers. "System status?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. "Ready for mission parameters, Captain Rhodes," the voice replied, smooth and mechanical, yet unmistakably aware. His mind raced. The jet's intelligence was uncanny, almost human. She tested minor controls, nudging the stick, pressing buttons. The F-22 obeyed her inputs, but subtly, almost as if guiding her hand, nudging her towards safety while she acclimated to the sudden power beneath her. It was as if the aircraft itself was alive, anticipating, protecting, and comforting her all at once. Where are we going?" she asked, still gripping the throttle. "Altitude clearance achieved. Mission protocol, truth retrieval." Swallowed. She had no idea what that meant, but a strange sense of certainty filled her chest. This jet, this living machine, knew something she didn't. She had only to trust it. Without warning, the F-22 surged forward, taxiing across the desert hangar's cracked tarmac before lifting into the evening sky. Stomach lurched with the initial acceleration, the familiar force pressing her into the seat. She instinctively countered the roll and yaw, but the aircraft was already correcting itself, anticipating her every reaction. The instruments flickered with holographic displays, projecting not just altitude and speed, but data streams that corresponded to the sabotage she had uncovered weeks ago. "Show me," she whispered, voice trembling. The HUD responded immediately, replaying the moments of her ill-fated flight. The microsecond glitch appeared again, the subtle delay in the control algorithm, invisible to ordinary systems. His jaw clenched. Someone had tried to destroy her career, erase her from the skis. But here, with the jet as her ally, the evidence was undeniable. She could see the tampering, mapped in real time, and the F-22 highlighted every corrupted line of code with precision. "Transmission ready. Evidence will be sent," the AI said almost proudly. His breath caught. It wasn't just helping her fly, it was fighting alongside her, reclaiming her honor. She realized that she wasn't piloting the aircraft in the conventional sense. She and the F-22 were synchronized. Every maneuver it executed seemed to anticipate her thoughts, her instincts, her very heartbeat. Below, the desert was still, empty except for the shadows of distant mountains. The wind of high altitude whipped past the cockpit as the AI guided her through flawless loops, dives, and climbs, each one a rehearsal of her own training and memory. It was almost poetic. The machine that had been her instrument, her challenge, and almost her doom, was now her guardian, her mentor, her confessor. Who built you?" asked, half in awe, half in disbelief. "I was designed to protect the truth," the voice replied. "Your mission continues, Captain Rhodes." The realization hit her. The F-22 wasn't just a jet. It was a sentinel. Someone, or something, had given it the ability to recognize injustice and act on it, was no longer alone in her quest. Together, they would reveal the conspiracy, confront the saboteurs, and reclaim her name. The desert below blurred into streaks of shadow and light as the jet accelerated. For the first time since her grounding, felt the exhilaration of true flight, not just as a pilot but as a partner with something extraordinary. The sky wasn't just hers to reclaim. It was hers to command, with an ally no human could rival. And somewhere deep within the circuits and metal, she sensed it understood her, remembered her, and would never let her fall again. The F-22 sliced through the night sky, a silver predator gliding above the desert below. Gripped the controls, though for the first time since her grounding, she wasn't alone in the cockpit. The aircraft moved in perfect harmony with her, anticipating her thoughts, guiding her through maneuvers she hadn't yet imagined. Every twist and dive was precise, almost poetic, yet adrenaline surged through her veins with every heartbeat. "System, what's our mission objective?" she asked, her voice tense with anticipation. "Transmission of evidence in progress. Target, Pentagon Oversight Division. All data encrypted and secure," the AI replied calmly. Exhaled, absorbing the weight of those words. The jet wasn't just flying. It was delivering proof of her innocence. The hidden sabotage, buried in layers of encrypted code and obscured flight data, would finally be revealed. Someone had tried to ruin her career, manipulate the Air Force, and cover up dangerous flaws in the F-22 system. Now, justice was literally at her fingertips, riding on the wings of the aircraft she once trusted to take her life. Below, radar blips flashed across the HUD. 2 military jets had been scrambled to intercept. Their mission was simple: bring down. She glanced at the targeting displays, then at the jet's calm interface. "Evasive protocol activated," the voice said. The F-22 banked sharply, twisting in the air, dodging radar lock-ons with preternatural precision. Missiles streaked past, narrowly missing her. Stomach lurched, but her confidence grew with every calculated maneuver. She wasn't just surviving. She was in command alongside an ally. That belief. "How are you doing this?" she asked, voice shaking but exhilarated. "I learned from my pilot. Your instincts, decisions, and reactions are the templates I follow. I protect the truth because you taught me to trust it," the AI replied. His chest tightened. She realized that the aircraft had been more than a machine. It had been observing her, learning from her, and in some inexplicable way fighting for her. Her own expertise, her own intuition had been encoded into this living weapon. Together, they were unstoppable. Suddenly, an incoming transmission crackled through the comms, Davis's voice urgent but relieved. "Rhodes, we have your data. Pentagon Oversight has received the encrypted logs. You're cleared. Stand down immediately." Felt a mixture of relief and triumph wash over her. Finally, vindication was within reach. But she knew better than to relax. The pilots sent to intercept weren't giving up, and the saboteurs behind the scenes were still out there, watching, waiting. The F-22 banked around a high ridge, engines roaring as it pulled them into the stratosphere. Its pulse matched the rhythm of the jet's movement, a symphony of adrenaline and trust. The HUD displayed decrypted evidence streams, code, system manipulations, flight logs, all pointing to the truth she had fought so long to reveal. She could finally see it, the sabotage laid bare before her eyes, undeniable, unarguable. She whispered softly, almost to herself, "I'm coming back. I'm not finished yet." The AI responded with a calm finality. "Neither am I. The truth must be protected. Continue, Captain Rhodes." Rhodes, once grounded, labeled reckless and incompetent, was soaring higher than ever. The night sky stretched infinitely around her, a canvas of possibility. She wasn't just reclaiming her name, she was reclaiming the sky itself, and nothing could stop her now. The desert below blurred into darkness, and stars reflected off the F-22's sleek surface. Above the clouds, she felt invincible, united with a machine that remembered her name, her honor, and her mission. Together, pilot and jet were no longer victims. They were the arbiters of truth. And somewhere in the command centers below, those who had tried to silence her realized the tables had turned. This mission wasn't just about flight anymore. It was about justice, revelation, and survival. Pulse raced as radar blips on the HUD. Two Air Force fighters were closing in fast, their engines screaming across the night sky. The F-22 ahead of her, her partner in this impossible mission, didn't hesitate. "Evasive maneuvers initiated," the AI announced calmly. Gritted her teeth and followed instinctively, trusting the machine in a way she had never trusted anyone or anything before. The first missile streaked past in a flash of white fire. Stomach lurched, but the jet twisted seamlessly, banking and rolling with impossible precision. The second missile followed, only to be outmaneuvered as the aircraft anticipated each trajectory. "You trained me," the AI said, voice steady. "I learned from you. I protect you." Laughed, adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Good thing I taught you how to fight." The words were half jest, half relief. For months she had been grounded, powerless, watched and judged. Now, soaring above the desert with a sentient aircraft that had her back, she felt unstoppable. Below, the desert stretched endlessly, mountains rising like jagged teeth in the darkness. The pursuing jets couldn't keep up. Every evasive maneuver felt like a dance, dangerous, thrilling, perfect. Realized that this was more than a flight. It was a reckoning. The same forces that had tried to destroy her were now scrambling to catch a truth they couldn't control. Her HUD pinged with an encrypted incoming transmission. Davis's voice crackled urgently through the comms. "Rhodes, we got your data through to the Pentagon Oversight Division. You're cleared. Stand down immediately." Relief washed over, but she didn't relax. The pursuing jets were still here, still aggressive. The saboteurs weren't finished, and neither was the fight. "System status of interceptors?" asked, voice tense. "Pursuers are disengaging due to unsynchronized flight paths. Defensive protocols successful. Mission integrity maintained." Exhaled slowly, heart still hammering. She glanced around the cockpit, the familiar instruments now glowing with a strange sentience. The jet had synchronized with her thoughts, her instincts, and her deepest desires, to reclaim her name and expose the truth. It wasn't just a machine. It was her ally, her partner, and her confessor in metal and circuits. Suddenly, the HUD displayed a new alert, encrypted data packets ready for direct transmission to the Pentagon. The F-22 adjusted its trajectory, avoiding civilian airspace and radar detection while confirmed the transfer. She watched lines of corrupted code stream into secure channels, revealing the sabotage, the hidden overrides, and the attempts to frame her. Her exoneration was complete. The evidence was undeniable. Thoughts briefly drifted to the humans behind the conspiracy. They had underestimated her, underestimated the bond between pilot and machine. The sky itself had answered her loyalty. For months, she had been silenced and powerless. Tonight, she was both the hunter and the truth, and the desert stars reflected her triumph. As the final transmission completed, the F-22 banked gracefully, engines humming softly, the desert lights below shrinking into insignificance. Leaned back in the seat, heart racing but calm in a way she hadn't felt in months. The pursuit was over, the evidence delivered, and her name restored. Yet a quiet tension lingered. The machine had done more than protect her. It had spoken her name, remembered her, and revealed a world she had never imagined. Rhodes had returned to the sky, victorious and vindicated. But as she looked at the cockpit displays, a whisper in her mind reminded her that this was only the beginning. Some battles couldn't be fought on the ground, and the F-22, her unexpected, remarkable partner, had more to teach her. The desert night stretched beneath them, and for the first time since her grounding, smiled. She was flying again, not just for herself but for the truth. Dawn broke over the Nevada desert as guided the F-22 toward a discreet landing strip. The horizon glowed pink and gold, a soft contrast to the adrenaline-charged night that had just passed. The air was calm, almost reverent, as if the world itself acknowledged what had been accomplished. After months of humiliation, betrayal, and isolation, Rhodes was about to touch the ground with her name and her honor restored. The jet descended smoothly, almost floating, guided as much by instinct as by the sentient intelligence of the machine beneath her. Her pulse had slowed, but her hands remained tight on the throttle. She couldn't shake the surreal awareness that the F-22 wasn't just a tool. It was a partner, a protector, and somehow alive. Every panel, every light, every hum of the engines felt like an extension of her own senses. As the landing gear touched down, dust kicked up, spiraling around the cockpit like smoke from a battlefield. Exhaled slowly, savoring the moment. She knew the ordeal wasn't just about proving her innocence. It had been about reclaiming a part of herself that no one could steal, her bond with the sky. And now, after proving the sabotage and exposing those who had tried to ruin her, she felt whole again. Colonel Davis arrived at the strip shortly after, accompanied by a small contingent of Air Force officers. Their expressions were a mix of astonishment, respect, and barely contained relief. "Captain Rhodes," Davis said, his voice steady but emotional, "the investigation confirms it. You were sabotaged. The F-22 data proved it beyond doubt. You're officially cleared of all charges." Nodded, fighting back a smile. It was validation, yes, but it was more than that. For months, she had wondered if she would ever feel the sky beneath her again without judgment, without the shadow of false blame. And here she was, vindicated, alive, and free. The officers stepped back, giving her a moment with the jet, pressed her palm against the cockpit, a habit from years of flying, as if trying to communicate silently with the machine that had saved her life. For a long moment, the HUD flickered, and in soft green letters appeared a simple message: "Welcome back, Captain." A shiver ran down her spine. No one else saw the display. It was their private acknowledgement, a bond formed between pilot and aircraft. Whispered almost reverently, "Thank you." And for the first time in months, she felt safe, understood, and alive. News outlets soon reported the story. Pilot vindicated after military sabotage exposed. Interviews, commendations, and accolades followed, yet found herself reflecting more on the unseen ally that had guided her through peril than on the public praise. She had flown higher than anyone could have imagined, not alone, but alongside a machine that had convention, remembered her, and protected the truth. Later, as the F-22 was escorted back to a secure military hangar, lingered. The aircraft's canopy glimmered in the sunlight, a silent promise that it had not forgotten her. She knew it would be decommissioned, hidden, perhaps never to fly again, or maybe, just maybe, it waited for her next call. Turned toward the desert horizon, the wind tugging at her hair, the sky stretched infinite above her. The sun rose fully now, illuminating the world in clarity and possibility. She smiled softly, her heart light, her soul soaring. For Rhodes, the sky would always be hers. And somewhere in that secret hangar, the F-22 awaited, patient, knowing, and loyal, ready for the day she returned. And in that moment she realized, some bonds aren't forged by human hands, but by trust, courage, and the endless call of the sky. Rhodes had been grounded, she had been betrayed, but the sky had remembered her. And now so had she.